What would you say to people who are reluctant on debating, right-leaning people, fascists?
First of all, debate is really difficult. It's a skill, and like anything relating to public speaking, it's not a skill that people have a strong intuitive grasp of. If a person is averse to debate in a professional or interpersonal capacity, I don't blame them at all. I think it's quite appropriate for these things to be handled, by people who are well trained in them. However, if you're going to get into it, and invariably we all have family members or friends, coworkers, colleagues who have bad ideas. Arguments are just a part of life. You have to learn how to argue. And it's extremely difficult, but there are a couple of pointers that I would like to offer. I often find it very helpful when I'm having a debate to not imagine myself as an active participant, but rather as an imaginary audience member watching me from afar. That way, there's a kind of selective depersonalization that makes it way harder for me to get angry. See, getting angry is the worst thing you can do in a debate. Unless you know what you're doing and you can weaponize righteous fury like, I don't know, Malcolm X, make it sound great. For the most part, it just makes you stupid and come off quite upset. You don't want to take these things personally. Debate is difficult. Arguing is difficult. And you want to be able to think, as maybe a chess player would, about their next move carefully about what direction to head down. Because the worst thing that can happen in a conversation is to allow the other person to dictate the terms of the debate. Stick to the stuff that you're strong on, preferably broader stuff, and come across as an innocent, almost uninvolved interlocutor who is being confronted by them. You want to make them feel, maybe even subconsciously, like they're imposing on you, wasting both of your times with their questions, their demands, Because the more engaged, the more directly involved, the more invested you become, the more you implicitly justify their investment. Every conversation you have with a person whose ideas are bad should be one in which they feel like they're intruding, and therefore they feel less comfortable. They're more willing to make concessions. They're more willing to back off or to feel as though they're being annoying or coming off as cringe, which is, of course, the worst thing you can do if you're having one of these conversations. So, say transgender stuff, right? I'm sure this gets talked about all the time in colleges these days. I got out of college just around the time before the internet culture war really kicked off, so most of the conversations that I had on social issues were by choice. But if you're talking about like anything pertaining to trans people, you will have someone who loves this Matt Walsh documentary come up, how do you feel about this one case of a 12-year-old who got, You look at them quizzically. They are wasting your time. You take a moment to respond. Why do you have an issue with people transitioning? Doctors seem to be okay with it. The studies show that it's not harmful. And it seems to make trans people far happier. What social harm is being done? Don't answer their question directly. Why do you cede to their gotcha? It's not like they were going to approach you in good faith. They ran up to you with a cultivated media headline, with a bumper sticker to scream at you right off the bat. Don't give that to them. If you want to talk about that specific issue, you can work back to it. It's possible to work your way back to that point, but you want to start on strong footing and stay calm. Don't get preachy or ivory towery. You're not on a high horse or anything. You're just like a calm, regular person being confronted with an angry nitwit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is like a good
Sure,
basic,
yeah.
it's a good basic template for approaching these conversations. Stay calm, make them feel like they're imposing on you, control the conversation, focus on big subjects that you're strong on, and every time they get more in the weeds, in the like specific pointers that they want to focus on, make it seem like, you roll your eyes like, okay, like they're like, sort of dragging both of you down this irrelevant conversation. You get what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
We should not have to argue for our existence, but unfortunately we have to. It's not really a matter of what's fair or not. So it's good to have those skills while you can. And remember, whenever you argue, as I have described, you are doing so from a place of compassion. It is in the self-interest of everyone to not be a fascist. What you're trying to do is prevent people from falling into thought-terminating cliches. Like, you've all seen the Gamergate era screaming lady on the ground, right? 2016, the triggered libs or feminists or feminazis or whatever. If you give them something, if you come across as upset, overly involved, overly invested, cringe, you give them an excuse to ignore what you have to say. It gives them power over you, and in doing so, both of you are hurt, because they're less likely to be pulled from their self and externally destructive ideology. At the end of the day, being good at arguing is being good at making other people's lives better, if your ideology is good. Vaush, please tell chat to not be cretins as soon as a woman comes on camera. Oh, chat was mostly fine. But they see women so rarely. Tell chat to not freak out about the potential of chat being weird about women. Yeah, it's not much better for chat to be full of people who are overly policing chat. You know, that's not much of an improvement on a bunch of people just being weird. Like, a bunch of people spam typing, like, don't be weird, guys, don't be weird. Like, that's not better than just being weird. That's also being weird.
You said that you think it's okay, because it's good to have sort of open discourse with fascists so that you can change, I guess, the opinion of the audience. Would you agree with that?
If it's in a good context. There are bad ways to platform and to have discussions, of course.
What way do you think would be a bad way, or a bad type of discourse, if you're trying to change minds of sort of the audience of a fascist? You know, someone like Nick Fuentes, for example.
Well, there are fascists who are far smaller than you, and by platforming them, you risk potentially elevating their audience in a way which is more beneficial than anything you could get from doing better than them. There are also many fascists who have completely given up on pretending to have a good argument, and at this point simply engage in debate as a way of spreading their notoriety. Like, they would just have a debate to just yell slurs or just sort of loudly exclaim things without any substance. At this point, I don't think there's any point in talking to them. The proper debate should be one in which both people are capable of being humiliated. If I come to a debate and I make a point and I am proven wrong, I feel bad. But there are people who will confidently say things that they know are not true, and when it is proven they're not true, they'll just move on to another thing because they're shamelessly anti-empiricist. In such a context, there's not really a point in talking to them. It's better to just focus on other people. Most people do at least pretend to care about the things they believe in.
You know, I used to be pretty right-wing, and then now I'm pretty far left-wing, and I think that that wouldn't have happened if I didn't see sort of the back and forth between, you know, left-wingers and right-wingers on a YouTube channel.
Of course, discourse is important, but it's always important to choose who you talk to as well. The process of engagement and debate is valuable, but as is always the case with any kind of, you know, message spreading, you know, it has to be done with discretion. If you can't do that, then you just waste your time in this, like, sort of irrelevant whirlpool of debates with people who are so unserious that you're frankly just wasting your time talking to them. But I do think most people can have their minds changed, at least potentially, and I do think that many conversations are worth having. The specifics of how to decide which conversations are, though, is honestly really complicated and changes a lot depending on factors that can change at any moment.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. I would I'd like to talk to you a lot more about this, but, you know, we don't have very much time, and there's a lot of you over, so.
Life is unfair, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But thank you, I appreciate it.